Time is important, and I am a clock.
Modern humans are thoroughly captivated by our concept of time. We find ways to keep time, manage time, measure time, preserve time, extend time, spend time, beat time, and kill time. There's a time and place for everything, and time flies when you're having fun. Our limited time on this earth is currently constructed around the reproduction and expansion of capitalism. We sell our time and labor for a wage, transforming them into commodities, both tangible and intangible, that others stuck in the system may consume. Our master is capitalism, and time is its whip. Physicists aren't quite settled on the nature of time yet, and I don't have time to wait for them to figure it out, so I'll try to stay away from the more technical stuff. Thanks to Einstein, we know that there's only space-time, and that it is not universal. But we're far from understanding space-time completely. As for the concept of time, we don't really know how much of it is external to us. We perceive and interpret it in our minds through the lens of culture. We observe sequences of events. We observe certain rhythms in nature. Our concept of time itself is what informs how we interpret those processes and fit them into our worldview. The cyclical time of some agricultural and nomadic societies was measured by the processes of nature. Day and night, season into season, sunrise and sunset, seed time and harvest, the first fallen leaf and the river's thaw and ice, the migration of the birds and the bison. Across the world, from the Gero of the Andes Mountains to the Hopi of so-called Arizona to the Buddhist monks of Southeast Asia, the wheels of time persisted. The concept of linear time, with a beginning and an end, would develop out to the Abrahamic faiths of Southwest Asia, from creation to the end of the world. With the explosive growth of Christianity in particular, this perception of time would gain significant popularity, informing our ideas of history, progress, and the future. Linear time would then transform into mechanical time, with the introduction of the clock. Before its development, one might use a sundial or an hourglass, but such methods were imprecise, and time measurement remained uncommon for the vast majority of ancient people. Clocks had a bit of a rocky start at first, but eventually gained their footing. They became more common ornaments in German cities in the 14th century, but they weren't particularly accurate. Then they gained some improvements in the 16th century, but they didn't even have minute hands yet, and the accuracy was still only relative to what came before. When the pendulum was invented in the 17th century, clocks gained the accuracy needed to add a minute hand. The second hand would appear in the 18th century, in a time when the Industrial Revolution propelled capitalism's rise to domination, transforming how we perceive and measure time itself. Humanity was quickly subsumed to the regular rhythm of the clock. Time's role in the reproduction of capitalism can be best encapsulated in the phrase, "time is money." Both time and money are real for sure, but we invented them. The very nature of time and money in relation to our society, to our existence, is up to us. But capitalism insists on maintaining the illusion that these are facts of life, set in stone, unchangeable. We are compelled and coerced to recognize the arbitrary existence and even more arbitrary value of money, to tie its possession to the necessities of life itself, to keep us selling our time for money to survive. And we are compelled and coerced to bisect, divide, and measure time in all sorts of ways. Hours, minutes, and seconds are not intrinsic laws of the universe, but we spend our lives ruled by them nonetheless. We are dominated by the tyranny of the clock. For some, myself included, it's difficult to even remain present in the present when every hour of one's day, every day of one's week, every week of one's month, and every month of one's year is burdened by the coercive demands of capitalist society. Everything in our lives is measured and ruled by the clock. The clock dictates our movements and inhibits our actions. It regularizes and regiments life itself. It turns the intangible and ineffable concept of time into something concrete, a commodity to be bought and sold. The clock is a necessary tool for the continuation of capitalism, and its mechanical tyranny is more potent and pervasive than any individual boss could dream to be. This attitude towards time was imposed at first by the clock-owning capitalists and largely remained in the factory floor. In their off time, factory workers in the 19th century would go on living as they wished in their smog-filled, gin-soaked slums. However, unlike trickle-down economics, the idea of tightly regulated time actually trickled down to the workers, so that even they succumbed to the deadly tick-tick-tick of monotony. The sin of wasting time was introduced to the public, and mass-produced watches and clocks became a mainstay among the newly time-conscious masses. At work, at church, and at school, punctuality was the greatest of virtues. Especially at school, the imposition of the clock served to calibrate the next generation of workers to the order of the system. This regime of the clock remains, and it requires conformity. Those who fail to do so face social disapproval and economic ruin. And yet, conformity to the tyranny of the clock provides no true reward. Joy is taken out of labor, and the quality of products and services diminish, as many workers have time-restricted quotas and strict deadlines imposed on them from above. Delivery workers especially are expected to run themselves ragged. Food service workers, retail workers, and customer service workers are expected to structure their lives around their regular schedules. Manual laborers and factory workers are expected to sacrifice their bodies to the altar of capital while on the clock. And from clock in to clock out, office workers must devote their mental energy to often inconsequential and meaningless busy work. Those who seek to be their own boss and work freelance on their own time are often left the most precarious and still live as slaves to the clock. Workers as a whole become clock watchers, concerned only with when we can escape the work that devours our lifetime to actually live the lives we want. Lives of leisure and labors of passion, which are left to be crammed into those brief hours between the end of the workday and the beginning of the next. Our true lives relegated to the flash of time we call Saturday and Sunday, if we even get the weekend off at all. Unpaid overtime is a common fixture in many workplaces, and work even attempts to snake its way into our leisure time through emails, texts, and work calls after hours. The leisure we do get to enjoy is often limited, scant, and empty, going only as far as our wages and energy would allow. Our relationships are restricted to the same realm, and suffer as a result, unable to bloom in their fullness due to the demands of the clock. Humans are expected to become like clocks, repetitive and regular. We're expected to rush through long and stressful early morning and late evening commutes, which in many cases involve a scramble for transportation and/or hours of exhausting traffic. We're expected to disregard the rhythms of our natural being, and this is especially apparent in the demands this capitalistic culture of the clock demands of our sleeping and eating schedules. The work schedules imposed upon us do not account for the sleep cycles and sleep patterns of each individual. Work starts at X hour and that's final, but very few are fortunate enough to find work that can accommodate their sleeping disorders or nocturnal inclinations. And this may seem petty, but I don't like having my blissful and creative dreams conform to the world of alarm clocks and work schedules. Nor do I like having to rush down my meals or eat only when time allows it. The workday is structured around the classic 3-meal structure, and we very often do need the energy that the classic 3-meal structure can provide. But it shouldn't have to be the default. Eat when you're hungry. Our eating pattern should be based on what our body needs, not the colonial imposition of English settlers and the lobbying efforts of James Caleb Jackson and John Harvey Kellogg, who pushed for breakfast cereal as the cure to masturbation. The strain of this dictatorship of the clock continues to contribute to mental and physical health problems, from digestive, nervous, and sleeping disorders to ruined bodies and shortened lives. It restricts our leisure and inhibits our relationships. What can we do to break free? Listen, don't get me wrong, clocks can be valuable things. I like being able to communicate what time people should come over to hang out. I like knowing how much sleep I've been getting lately. And I like having events to look forward to at a particular time, like episode premieres. Clocks can and do help us coordinate so many important activities, avoiding confusion and facilitating cooperation. I'm not saying to go out and smash every alarm clock you see, Though it is interesting that during France's July Revolution of 1830, Parisians shot at clock towers across the city. The problem with the clock is that capitalism uses it to dominate our lives with extreme efficiency, turning us into servants of a concept we created and should control. We need to transform our relationship with time, as we've done in the past, breaking free of the machine-like conditioning and domination of the clock. Workers can and should work to rule, slow down, and engage in time theft. Workers across industries will need to organize, through unions, councils, syndicates, or as wildcats, to fight for an end to the compulsion of the 40-hour work week, to fight for an end to the 8-hour workday, to fight for the expansion of the weekend, and ultimately, to prefigure the means by which we take control of our labor and our lives. Students can and should take a similar stand and strategy to wrest control of their rest and their learning. For the solar punks of my audience, while steampunks may be adorned with the mechanical clocks of Victorian England, we should lend some effort towards a recalibration of ourselves with the rhythms of the natural world, and, more personally, with the rhythms of our own bodies. We all should strive for a world post-work and post-capitalism, where every person can pursue their individual passions and contribute meaningfully to the collective too. We should all have the freedom to explore ourselves fully, without the frayed nerves, weariness, and poor health that the tyranny of the clock imposes on us all. Let the clock be a tool of reference and coordination, but let it dominate us no more. The freedom to live in the present should be afforded to us all, because the present is the only thing we know we have. Peace. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share with your fellow peoples. Thanks once again, of course, to the family, including our newest members, Leonie Jorna, David Lindies, Natalie DeLuca, Strawberry Money, and Xavier Baker. If you can, join these beautiful humans and support me too on patreon.com/sainttrue. Check out all my other videos for a range of radical topics. Follow me on Twitter @_sainttrue. Thanks again. Peace.